Ever notice how a completely stressful day doesn't just exhaust your mind, but literally collapses your body? I mean, think about it. You're sitting at your desk, you're hunched over a screen staring at emails, and without even realizing it, your shoulders just kind of creep right up to your ears, your chest caves in, and your breathing, it becomes incredibly shallow. We are living in an era of constant low-grade fight or flight, right? Over time, this modern posture, combined with all that chronic stress, it acts like a massive biological tax. It's the literal cost of gravity and burnout on our bodies, and it's accelerating the aging process way before we actually reach old age. So, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're decoding the science of neurosomatic resilience. We're going to uncover exactly how the physical structures of our bodies dictate the health of our minds and, vice versa.
We all spend so much time searching for the next big biohack, right? The complex supplements, extreme cold plunges, those crazy elaborate morning routines. But I want you to consider a totally different paradigm today. What if the absolute ultimate longevity hack, literally the most powerful immediate tool you have for burnout recovery and resetting your biological clock, is, well, right under your nose? What if it's just oxygen? Specifically, the biomechanics of how you actually intake it. Today, we're totally reframing how you think about your breath and your body's flexibility.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Section 1. The architecture of aging. So, to understand how to actually optimize our bodies, we first really need to understand the biological reality of what happens when we just stop moving and breathing properly. When we look at the clinical data showing these physiological changes, the reality of what we're up against becomes completely clear. As we get older, and especially if we stay sedentary, our arteries physically stiffen up, and that directly increases the risk of cardiovascular disease. But at the same time, our chest wall stiffens too. That forward head posture from looking at phones and laptops all day, it literally restricts the actual physical space your lungs have to expand. It is exactly like trying to inflate a balloon inside a rigid wooden box. Your body has to work so much harder just to pull in a normal breath. Aging and chronic stress basically act as a biological clock, and this structural collapse, that's the exact mechanism winding that clock forward.
And this is right where we need to redefine a super common term. When you hear the word flexibility, you probably think of, a gymnast or just basic fitness stuff like touching your toes. But I want you to look at this definition through the lens of longevity and modern neuroscience. Flexibility is the ability of your tissues to lengthen, sure, but its true superpower is that it improves circulation, relieves deep-seated neurological tension, and, this is huge, actually supports arterial compliance. That means stretching literally helps keep your blood vessels elastic. We have to stop viewing flexibility as just some basic fitness metric and really start seeing it as a foundational tool for immediate nervous system regulation.
Which brings us elegantly right to our next chapter, Section 2, Regulating the Nervous System.
So how exactly do we bridge that gap between the physical structure of the body and the chaotic stress happening up in our brains? Well, we manually override our stress response. The secret highway connecting your brain to your body is called the vagus nerve. It runs all the way from your brain stem, right down through your chest, and straight into your colon. Think of this vagus nerve as your body's biological brake pedal. See, when you're stressed, cortisol and epinephrine, those are your fight or flight hormones, they just flood your system. But when you engage in slow, diaphragmatic breathing, you physically stimulate that vagus nerve. And that sends a direct, immediate command to your brain to lower that epinephrine and shift your entire nervous system from a state of sympathetic panic into a calm, parasympathetic rest and digest state. It's literally a manual override for burnout. Actually, we can put this into practice right now. Doing this correctly changes absolutely everything. Go ahead and place one hand on your upper chest and the other just below your ribcage, right on your belly. Okay, now breathe in super slowly through your nose. The hand on your chest should stay completely still, but you should really feel the hand on your belly rise as you draw that air deep, deep down into your abdomen. Now exhale slowly through pursed lips, kind of like you're blowing out a candle, and feel your belly contract. That deep downward pull is your diaphragm contracting, and that slow, controlled release is exactly what stimulates the vagus nerve.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the clinical data behind this simple action. It's absolutely stunning. 10 points. According to Harvard Health, practicing that slow, deep breathing for just 15 minutes a day can drop your systolic blood pressure, that's the top number in your reading, by up to 10 whole points. For a lot of people, a regular breathing practice can actually reduce blood pressure as much as a medication. So this isn't just about relaxation. This is measurable, hardcore biological optimization.
To really maximize this, especially when you're moving around or stretching, we use a very specific ratio. The clinical standard is a 2-to-4 ratio. Basically, you exhale twice as long as you inhale. So think a 2-second slow nasal inhale, followed by a 4-second prolonged exhale through pursed lips. Now, why does that timing matter so much? Because if you strain or hold your breath while you're stretching or working out, which, let's be honest, we all do unconsciously, you perform what's known as a Valsalva maneuver. This breath holding dramatically spikes your blood pressure and actually induces a stress response in the body. By synchronizing this 2 to 4 breath with your movements, you'll literally force those muscle spindles to relax, and that allows for a much deeper stretch and a totally calmer mind.
Let's look at how this plays out long-term. Section 3. Flexibility as longevity.
Now that we've essentially unlocked the breath, we move from immediate stress relief right into long-term biological preservation, because there is a massive physiological payoff to a functional flexibility and movement routine. Consistent stretching over a multi-week period has been clinically shown to decrease arterial stiffness. By keeping your tissues pliable, you are quite literally keeping your vascular system young. It lowers your resting heart rate, it improves neuromuscular stability, which is basically your brain's awareness of your body's position in space, super crucial for preventing injuries and undoing all that damage from sitting at a desk for 8 hours a day. And incredibly, because of the increased blood flow and oxygenation, it actually boosts your cognitive function.
And that cognitive boost, it's backed by some really hard clinical data. High intensity and even moderate physical activity significantly reduces the risk of clinical depression and anxiety. We are talking about highly tangible reductions in brain fog and cognitive fatigue here. Moving your body physically alters your brain's architecture. It elevates brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is what helps your brain create brand new neural pathways. So when you're stretching and breathing, you are quite literally building emotional resilience and cognitive armor. It's a real game changer.
But we have to do this safely. Section 4. The rules of recovery.
We really need to introduce some emotional intelligence into our optimization here, because pushing harder isn't always better. In fact, knowing your boundaries is a massive part of sustainable wellness. So the crucial point is understanding the difference between a productive sensation and a neurological warning sign. Our culture really glorifies pushing through the pain, but biologically, that is a terrible strategy for longevity. A productive stretch should feel like a mild, tolerable pull. It might be slightly uncomfortable, sure, but it's manageable. However, if you feel a sharp, stabbing pain, or any numbness, tingling, or that pins and needles feeling, that is your body literally screaming at you to stop. That means you're compressing a nerve or risking acute tissue damage. True body awareness is listening to those signals, not just blindly ignoring them. In fact, there are times when stretching is absolutely the wrong move. Clinically, these are known as contraindications. If you have a recent unhealed fracture, acute tissue inflammation, which just means the area is warm, red, or swollen, or an active local infection, you must press pause. Stretching actively inflamed tissue disrupts the whole healing process. Also, if you have joint hypermobility, where your joints easily go way beyond a normal range, aggressive stretching can seriously destabilize your ligaments. Validating your need to rest and knowing exactly when not to stretch is actually a highly advanced form of self-care and recovery.
Let's move to Sal and see how this builds our final integration. Section 5. Your sustainable wellness routine.
So how do we take all this incredible neuroscience, the breathing, the flexibility, and the recovery, and actually turn it into a sustainable reality? Well, this integrated weekly schedule is backed by the American College of Sports Medicine and the American Heart Association, and it is incredibly balanced. Look at Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. They're focused on cardiorespiratory exercise, followed by targeted post-aerobic stretching right when the muscles are nice and warm. Then Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, you shift gears to strength training, balance, and a full-body flexibility routine. And Saturday, that's just for active recreation. Think gardening, a light hike, maybe dancing. It is not about crushing yourself in the gym 7 days a week. It's about a premium, balanced formula that regulates your nervous system while keeping your physical structure highly resilient and adaptable.
Now, if you're looking at that schedule and feeling a bit overwhelmed because maybe you haven't moved much lately, I really want you to internalize this quote from the ACSM guidelines. Inactive people who start moving get the biggest bang for their buck. Experts now say it is never too late to attain the benefits of an active lifestyle. I mean, think about how absolutely empowering that is. The very moment you decide to take a single deep, intentional breath, the moment you decide to do just one mild stretch, your body begins to respond. The return on investment for simply starting today is massive. You haven't missed the window. The relief, the optimization, it literally starts right now.
You take about 22,000 breaths every single day. And let's face it, most of them are completely unconscious. But the way you breathe and the way you hold your physical posture directly dictates your stress levels, your cognitive clarity, and exactly how rapidly you age. The science is absolutely clear. The tools are completely free, and they're literally inside you right now. So the choice really is yours. Will you take your next breath on autopilot, trapped in this endless cycle of stress? Or will you take control, deepen your breath, and use it to hack your biological clock? Take a deep breath, exhale slowly, and go build your resilience.